All right, welcome back to the channel. Jermell Charlo says in no uncertain terms that he wants Jeisen Rosario next, and he does not care if there's fans there or not. He wants to prove that he is the best 154 pounder and, let me add, one of the top pound for pound fighters in the world. Let's talk about Jermell Charlo, Jeisen Rosario in the 154 pound division in this video. All right, welcome back. And thank you to everybody that supports the channel as a subscribers. Thank you to everybody that supports through the Cash App and the Venmo and comes to the live streams Monday through Friday. And thank you to everybody that supports me over there on the Patreon. All 50 of us running strong over there. Thank you for being part of the crew. Let's talk about Jermell Charlo. Jermell Charlo is the 154 pound WBC champion, and in my book, one of the best fighters in all of boxing. He is the longest reigning, go through these. Yep, longest reigning 154 pound champion, which ain't saying a lot because he just got his belt back. Now, maybe it is Teixeira now. Maybe Teixeira got that belt after Jaime Munguia dropped it before the Tony Harrison fight. I'll have to check that out. But Jermell Charlo has been a staple of the 154 pound division since Canelo Alvarez was at 154 pounds. His brother was at 154 pounds, Jermell Charlo as well, and was a champion, moved up to 160 pounds. But right now, in my opinion, Jermell Charlo is the class of that division. There is, however, another champion, a unified champion at 154 pounds named Jeisen Rosario, who just got those belts by knocking out a highly regarded Julian J. Rock Williams out of the great city of Philadelphia in the great state of Pennsylvania. I say that because that's where my daddy's from, so I always have affection for the state of Philadelphia, for the state of Pennsylvania, the city of Philadelphia. I also mix those up sometimes, the state and the city, and I always get Jones for doing it. But you know me long enough. You know I'm this ain't scripted. So what's coming out of my head is coming out of my mouth, and sometimes it gets mixed up. But that is who Jeisen Rosario beat. J-Rock. Jeisen Rosario is a very heavy-handed, big 154 pounder out of the Dominican Republic. And when he beat J-Rock to win the IBF and the WBA 154 pound championship, he was asked about Jermell Charlo, and it looked like the dude's face turned. He's a brown-skinned dude, around the same tone as me, and his face looked like it went completely. He changed to Kelly Pavlik. He went from looking like Tito Trinidad to looking like Kelly Pavlik real quick. All the color left his face when they asked him about Jermell Charlo, and he said essentially that he wasn't ready yet. He might have waffled a little bit since that point in time, man, but that's when that fight ended between J-Rock and Rosario, that's where it was left at. So for me, I don't have a lot of confidence in Jeisen Rosario's ability to beat Jermell Charlo, especially because I had picked J-Rock to beat him because I had made a big mistake. I didn't underestimate Jeisen Rosario. I just forgot that J-Rock doesn't have a very good chin. I thought because he got hit by Jermell Charlo, because Jermell Charlo also knocked out J-Rock before Jeisen Rosario did. I thought that maybe that was just, it was just Jermell Charlo, caught him with a good shot, and it is what it is. But nah, the dude got a little bit of a suspect chin, and or Jeisen Rosario got heavy hands like Jermell Charlo does, and that's what you get when you get clipped. But he beat him up, man. He beat up J-Rock. But going in there with Jermell Charlo, I think is a completely, different scenario. And that J-Rock, but that fight should happen because Jermell could be, because Jermell's in a situation really where it's worth it if they said, yeah, I'll fight without fans, because that's what Jermell Charlo's saying. When he says he's fighting without fans, his money's gonna take a hit for that fight, because the guys like Jermell Charlo, these champions, they get cuts of the gate, and when you don't have a gate, there's no cut. You don't get a cut of nothing is nothing. You know what I mean? So that's gonna hit him a little harder. But I think for Jermell Charlo, it's worth taking the fight, because I think he's significantly better fighter than Jeisen Rosario. And I forgot the other reason why I got wrong. I picked Jeisen Rosario to beat J-Rock was because Jeisen Rosario got a touchy chin, and because he got knocked out in a fight that he was probably winning against Nathaniel Gallimore. He got knocked out by Gallimore, and I don't think Gallimore is not some tremendously heavy hitter. It just that Jeisen Rosario's chin might just be a little bit funny. The guy whose chin is not funny, however, is Jermell Charlo. And Jermell Charlo is also somebody that you do not want to get in the ring with if you got a shaky chin. So, but as far as making that fight quickly, I think that is a very, very smart move for Jermell Charlo, because Jermell Charlo will then have 3 of the 154 pounds belts in his pocket, which I think would put him, obviously would put him one step away from being an undisputed champion at 154 pounds. And if he becomes an undisputed champion at 154 pounds, then there you go. He needs to be placed upon as one of the top pound for pound fighters in the world, because that's what happened with Alexander Usyk. Alexander Usyk didn't have nearly the competition at cruiserweight that Jermell Charlo has at 154 pounds. So, and for me, one of the things that I try to push on this channel, I talk a lot about on this channel, is that these pound for pound lists with these major boxing outlets like really ESPN, Ring Magazine are the ones with the top pound for pound list that people talk about the most, because those organizations really spend a lot of time and energy marketing their pound for pound lists. But if you look at those guys' pound for pound lists and you watch American boxing, you have to say, or at least you don't have to say it, I'm gonna say it. I have no clue how these guys are leaving certain one of these guys up off of this list. How Gervonta Davis is not on that pound for pound list, but Monster Inoue is, when you look at the two of those guys in the ring and look at how they fight, is beyond me. How Gennady Golovkin is on that pound for pound list still, and Jermell Charlo is not, is beyond me. It's not beyond me why. I know why. I believe that I know why it is, because, they've got certain things cut. There's a certain way that pound for pound looks, and it is looked that way for several years now, and there's very little variation to it. When Chocolatito falls off, a Monster Inoue pops on. When a Sor Roivasai pops off, a Juan Carlos Estrada jumps on. If Errol Spence Jr. dropped off, a Jermell Charlo might squeak on. It's kind of like they have a certain amount, the way that those votes pan out might not be the intention of the people, but the way the votes pan out on those organizations is you always see the basic distribution remaining the same. You'll have two Mexican fighters and two Black American fighters, or 3 Black American fighters and 2 Mexican fighters. The other ones are going to be split up between Asian fighters and Eastern European fighters. Either 2 Asian fighters and 3 Eastern European fighters, or 2 Eastern European fighters and 3 Asian fighters, or some general mix-up that looks just like that on those pages. But if Jermell Charlo were to unify a division, there is no way that they cannot put that guy up on that pound for pound list where he deserves. And that's why I want to see him take this fight and why I want to see Jermell Charlo unify at 154 pound division, because I think that this guy has proven that he is one of the best fighters in boxing. If you look at the four scoring criteria for boxing, which is defense. He has excellent defense. He effectively aggressive. He's extremely aggressive and extremely effective in his aggressiveness. He has great ring generalship. He has very good, very clean and effective punches. You can tell by his knockouts, and all of that is extremely extreme. He's an extremely balanced fighter. I think he's even more balanced than his brother Jermell Charlo, who fights at another weight class. Jermell has a little bit more power to him. But even then, Jermell has more power. He's a bigger guy. But even then, Jermell Charlo is definitely handling his business. And the one loss he has in his record, he came out and avenged it by a knockout, which is something, my friend, that Vasily Lomachenko didn't do. And he's sitting on top of it for many people. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section, please. And with that, we're out. Peace.